Former Minister, the Honorable Former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, the Honorable Collins Dauda, who doubles as my uncle, members of the Diplomatic Corps, invited guests, members of civil society organizations, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We are here once again to continue with our consultations. And I must, at the very outset, on my personal behalf, that of the President of the Republic, the government, and the good people of this country, say a big thank you to all of you for the work you've been doing since yesterday. The country is hugely indebted to you for the work you've done. The feedback we've received across the country is that people are particularly excited about these consultations. And indeed, Nana, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say a big thank you to all of you on behalf of the President and the government of Ghana. The enthusiasm with which the discussions have unfolded is quite remarkable and commendable. I think yesterday we all witnessed the spirited nature of the contributions, the observations, the critique, the inputs, the commendations, and all of that. And I think that is something that we should all be very happy about. Permit me also to particularly mention the bipartisan nature of this consultation. And on that note, I want to thank all the political parties. I want to thank all the leaders of the political parties, members of parliament from the majority and minority side for their support and for their participation in this consultation. This is a true Ghanaian adventure and it's a true Ghanaian move. And that clearly shows that with a bipartisan attitude, we can achieve a lot in this country. They are patriots of the first order, and I thank them so very much. I want to also thank the chiefs for the support they've given us. They've done excellently well. It will appear they'll be more consistent in the hall than even those of us who are younger than them. They've sat through the process from the very beginning up to this point. That also is a clear testimony of their nationalism, their patriotism, and their commitment towards the forward march of our country. Nananom, thank you, Edamasi Bibri. God richly bless you. The consultations is already revealing that the idea is a very good idea. And we thank the President for his vision and for his instructions for us to organize this consultation. So today is the second day, and my understanding is that today we are going to have discussions amongst groups, and the groups will make their presentations. Thereafter, we hope to be able to construct a communique which will be a synopsis of the resolutions of this National Consultative Dialogue. That communique will be shared amongst you, and we will find a mechanism of coming to some consensus as to the content of the communique. I believe also that after these consultations, a full report will then be constructed on the basis of which my ministry will have the privilege of implementing. Ladies and gentlemen, Ananom, thank you so very much. And let me conclude by reiterating the assurance of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and my humble self that whatever measures emanate from these consultations, we are going to implement them diligently, dispassionately, and with a sense of integrity and urgency. I thank you for your attention.
Another round of applause, please, for the Sector Minister. And now to the presentations. We've got two. The first is on mining waste management and the small-scale mining. Is to be presented by Dr. Asamoah Boateng, MD of ZOIL, who is also representing Zoom Lion. Shall we please welcome him? And it will be chaired by Professor Frank K. Nyame, lecturer, University of Ghana, Earth Science Department. Please, a round of applause for him as well.
a very important component of any mining process. Indeed, if we look at mining, most of the commodities that we take, if you take gold, we are just going to take about 2, 3, 4, maximum 5 grams per a ton of material, which means that over 99.9% of the material that we take in order to take out our gold or our diamond will just be waste. So with that in mind, how do we then factor in the waste component in the mining process? It is a very, very crucial one. And the waste, we have the solid type of waste. Before you go to mine, you have to take out the trees, the vegetation. We also have the liquid waste. You have a lot of water being used in mining. Then as they grind some of the material that they take, we also generate waste that will go into the air. So with that in mind, again, we think that the waste management component is a crucial aspect of mining. If you don't manage that well, it becomes a problem, not just for us, but also for posterity. So I would urge the honorable gentleman to do justice to the topic, and then we all see how, if there are any questions, any things to be looked at, we have to understand that waste is indeed a very, very important component of mining. So without much ado, I think you can give the presentation and then we take some questions from. I understand it's supposed to be 10 minutes. So please, let's do justice to the 10 minutes and then we try to see how we move from there. Thank you very much.
Good morning. All protocols observed. I want to thank you for this opportunity and the platform to present. This morning I'm going to talk about the solutions that Zoomlion, I'm actually presenting on behalf of Zoomlion, solutions that Zoomlion intends to provide to solve some of the problems that we have in the mining sector. So to begin with, I think yesterday a lot was spoken about the challenges and the distractions that we have in the small-scale mining sector due to illegal activities. We know of the water bodies, a lot of contamination in the water bodies. Pollution with mud and chemicals is a major concern, and there's a threat to water quality as we see it at the present time. The consequences are deadly on fishes and fishes in the freshwater and in the sea as the contamination ends up in the sea. And this also has some public health issues. In terms of forest, I think we can all witness that a bigger chunk of our rainforest is gone as a result of illegal mining activities. If you compare between 2017 and 2018, there's an increase of about 60% in the loss of rainforest. These have implications, and the solutions that I'm going to present will basically be focused towards solving some of these problems. So for instance, I'm going to talk about how to help with land cover loss of biodiversity, erosion and changes in topography, reduce vegetation, and then we know all these have consequences, impacts like changing climate and so on. So as we know of Zoomlion, the track record is there. For the past 15 years, I think a lot has been done. The company stands higher to leverage on its widespread investment to help save the situation. There's a lot of infrastructure available, for instance, in the area of wastewater treatment. We have products, we have compost. The several plants around the country currently producing compost out of waste, domestic waste, and this can be used. The equipment base is sufficient to undertake physical reclamation activities. We also have several collaborations which make us stand unique in the delivery of innovative solutions. We have trained staff. We will be able to move into the field to conduct these remediation activities. There is some previous experience in the area of afforestation, and this was indeed conducted by Zoya Services. Presently, there's some work going on. There's the decommissioning of Saba, Pone, and Oti landfills, and all these are there to show that good work has been done, and we can continue the good work. So what I'm showing here is a picture of the present situation with the Pone landfill. The landfill has been completely transformed into what you see here, and it's all by the good men, the engineers, technical people who have worked diligently to get this landfill transformed. So the company is in a position to apply all the techniques for land reclamation and remediation. Most of the solutions will be in situ, that is at the site where the destruction is occurring. Some of the physical approaches will be pump and treat for water, excavation, filling and leveling. There will be construction of dams for tailings containment. And then the remediation activities, we are going to use two approaches, bioremediation and then phytoremediation. So with the reclamation, the pump and treat, basically bioreactors will be constructed using them as treatment dams, and then the water will be pumped into those bioreactors for treatment. Where necessary, chemical treatment will be included. In terms of bioremediation, there's a process called bioaugmentation. Bioaugmentation means adding microorganisms which will improve the treatment of wastewater. What happens is the microorganisms will compete with the natural microorganisms in the system, and the microorganisms will consume the waste. With the reclamation of the land, we have about 4 steps. So number 1, we'll excavate muddy areas, and then we'll fill and level the excavated areas. And then we'll apply compost to a depth of about 2 to 3 inches. And then we'll apply phytoremediation, which will involve planting of certain plant species that consume contaminants. So contaminants, for instance, if there's cyanide, heavy metals, those can be consumed. So what you see here is compost. Accra compost is present. We have another compost plant in Kumasi. And then there's a third one currently, agric, which is also producing compost. Others are about to be constructed in the country, and this is all going to be available for this work to be conducted. So I mentioned our experience in afforestation. Parcels of land can be remediated by this approach, and then tree planting can be done. Once the tree planting is done, it means that the land is already restored. Here are some of the partners. We have Dredge Masters, we have JA Plant Pool, Zoya Services, and then Zoomlion. I'm also showing pictures of regional and sanitation ministers when they went to visit the Pond landfill. Also showing is some of the project engineers. So the benefits of managing mining waste, I can speak of about 4 benefits. First, it can restore lands for economic gains. Secondly, farmland can be reclaimed and later used for the purpose after treatment. And then the third one, which is very important, the creation of jobs for the teeming youth during the reclamation process. And then number 4, restoring the ecology of the area and preserving the local biodiversity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. We would take at least 4 questions. We'll take 4 questions. But before that, I think there are a few things that Doctor was mentioning: bioremediation, phytoremediation. They are big words for those of us who are academics. But essentially, what it means is that we can use plants or some small animals to be able to change, degrade, to help. The plants will take up some of these things from the soil, from the degraded material, and then they don't allow these things to go into the environment. So any questions? Okay, the first one there.
Hello. My name is Dr. Samuel Obri from the Center for Environmental Impact Analysis, based in Cape Coast. My question to Doc: after using the phytoremediation, the plans to clean up the toxic contaminant, what happens to the phyto plant? Because they will still be loaded with the toxic material. How is those plants going to be disposed of without reintroduction of the contaminant back into the environment? And the same thing ran through with the water cycling and what have you that you talked about. Because if you are not careful, you would reintroduce those contaminants back into the environment, either change the speciation form or put it in a more deadly form than this original point there. The second question I would still want to find out from Doc X. He showed the picture of the Pond landfill and the leachate that counts, because we are going to cap. I saw it that it have been capped. Those waste fields have been capped. And over the years, when it rains, the seepages and other things, they create also leaches, like we used to have at Oblogu.
Please, can you land on the question?
So my question is, how are the leachates that are also going to come out from the capping of those mine tailings, how are they going to be capped and preserved in a way whereby they will not be leached into the external environment?
Doc, can you just answer?
Should I
Yeah,
respond now?
just
okay,
yes.
okay, so my answer to the first question, which I think you asked of, the phytoremediation, the plants that will be planted to remove contaminants. So the plants will be cleared after testing the soil to ensure that the soil, there's no residual contamination in the soil. So once we clear the plants, a number of things can be done. If we have heavy metals, what we can do is that we can, there's a process called stabilization. Stabilization will involve basically immobilizing, making sure that adding components to the collected plants to make sure that the solid components, the contamination does not leave the plant. So that's basically the stabilization. Once it's stabilized, I know in the country we've already set up some areas have been designated for hazardous waste disposal. So these areas have been engineered. For instance, in Takrade, we have the STMA landfill. We have a location where we dispose of hazardous waste. So the stabilized waste can then be disposed at the landfill.
And the second,
Okay.
the second part, but please brief. Yeah.
Okay, so with the second question, I think he was asking about the leachate.
On the leachates, yeah.
Treatment of the leachate. Okay. I think I mentioned tailings ponds. So these ponds will be constructed. Residual waste, we have a foreign partner. There's a company called Black Forest Solutions, which is a German company that specializes in waste management. That company, waste that cannot be stabilized and disposed here, basically what they will do is that they will export. So for instance, arsenic, mercury, those wastes can be exported because we don't have good facilities to manage those wastes here.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
adding to, because I'm part of the team, so I want to answer some of the questions that he was asked. For the first one, when the phytoplantings or there's a hyper accumulation, when the plants take the heavy metals and those things, but we have enzymes, as you showed in the slide. Those enzymes can take the plants can take the enzymes together. So when they hyper accumulate it, then they degrade it. So we have a process called phytodegradation. So that will solve the problem with the phytoplankton accumulating the heavy metals. So that has to go through so many research to improve on it. And in terms of the leachate, when it has heavy metals, we have a biodegradation, also using some of these enzymes also to do that. But before, we can do the pump and treat as well.
Okay.
And that will...
Thank you very much. I think it's already answered. For those of us here, we just need a basic type of information in order to help in solving the problem. So I think the theory will have to limit it a bit. Okay, next question. Anybody with any questions?
Yes, so please, Doc, I wanted to ask, I'm here.
Yeah.
Have you done any cost analysis of what it would take based on what you have submitted to reclaim sites, for example, a hectare of land, be it a wetland or be it a dry area? Have you done any cost analysis, and can you share with us? Again, I see the presentation took time to also tell us about some of the projects you are doing, but I would also want to acknowledge to the gathering here that there are also quite a number of companies and forestry service provisioning companies out there who provide services and also use nature-based solutions for some of these approaches. So I also entreat that we open up the discussion on the reclamation and not limit it to just what we have heard here, because I think that there are so many solutions out there that others can also provide. Thank you very much.
Okay, Doc, the question that he asked.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
I think it's more of a contribution in my view. So
I think for what he said, it's currently preliminary. I would say that there has not been a thorough study to actually provide figures as to the cost.
The cost-benefit analysis,
okay, but,
yeah.
What we know and what we have seen has been reported is, so for instance, for Western region, we understand that it will cost about $250 million. It's not work that we ourselves have done, but I think it's
okay.
out there. But
okay.
I think another phase will be to go deep into the cost implications
Benefit
of these things.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other question?
Yeah, over here.
Okay.
Very quickly, because it's been partially asked already, my name is Golda Ado. On behalf of most of the communities that I've been representing and working with for the past 15 years, my question is, how can we get better clarity and transparency regarding the work that Zoom Lion does, especially because today is for solutions. And under solutions, it's very important that we touch on the topic of partnerships, ownership. The partners mentioned, I dare say, might mostly be all founded under one parent body, unless this has changed. How can people on the ground, how can the communities and the youth groups who are very vested in the environmental issues and protection issues be part of what is going on and make sure that the right things are actually being done and own them? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Doc. But is it, just before you say, is it related to mining? Is the question
Very
related
much
or
so.
general?
Yes.
It's a general question.
It's related to specifically mining and how people can come on board and the transparency regarding the partners that were shown at the end of the presentation.
Okay, Doc.
Okay, so I think in my conclusion on the third point, I stated something about job opportunities for the youth. Okay, so given the nature of the work and how it's going to be done, it has to be done at the site. So definitely, in terms of engagement, the youth who at that particular location will be involved, and job opportunities will be given to them. They will have the opportunity to basically state any concerns or any alternatives that they think will bring better results. So I think it's going to be transparent. The leaders of each community will be engaged. For instance, in the Western region, for where we operate, Zoil, we engage the community. We have community engagement programs in which we have discussions with the youth and the elders.
Okay. I think you can contact, lady, you can contact him later for, specific and detailed discussion on this issue. One last question. Yes.
Hello. My name is Hannah Sukurantin, and I work for Waka. I just want to find out from Doc how they are going to treat the naturally occurring radioactive substances that, when they are buried in the earth crust, are very, very stable. But once you start surface mining and you expose them, how do you arrest them before they emit into the atmosphere? Because once you expose them, you have exposed them. How do you treat that? Yes, thank you.
Okay, so when it comes to NORM, currently we are, I would say, probably one of the companies in Ghana that is working towards NORM disposal. We already have the tools for testing, and also have storage facility, interim storage facility. I think once the material is identified to have norm, which we have the tools to test, we have processes to take it through. We are going through the permit process currently with NRA, the Nuclear Regulatory Authority. So I cannot speak to the details of exactly what will be done because the permit has not been provided yet, but we're working on solutions for norm disposal.
Okay, thank you very much. As I said before the talk, waste is an important component in the mining process. And therefore, okay, one last question.
Yeah, Prof, mine is not a question, but it's a contribution in managing mining waste.
Yeah.
My name is Kofi Ajumai, Managing Director of QB Goldface.
Yeah.
I've been involved in alluvial operation for nearly 35 years. And my experience, I want to share with those who are here.
Okay, please, very brief, because time, we are almost out of time. Yeah.
Most of the time, in managing, doing exploration, a lot of data is not compiled to cover the waste in terms of geology and metallurgy. So it has been a problem in these mining sectors, especially at small-scale areas. So one of the solutions to deal with pollution will be at each particular site, or we have to educate these mining guys to gather enough information on geology and metallurgy in designing their dams and ponds. If not, they always get these problems and then they release these slimes into the drainage system. So it's an area where we have to try to find a solution to gather enough data. That's my contribution.
Mr. Ajiman, thank you very much. Before we end, let's please think about the waste, because just like the plastic waste problem we are having, it's not enough going in to take the water in plastic bottles and then drinking and putting the, what do we do with the waste that we generate every day? So in mining too, I think we are all agreed that it should be an important component of the entire mining spectrum, whether small scale, whether illegal, let us consider the waste. And on that note, I would hand over to my MC for a very good work done. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for Prof and Doc. Madam Ekanonko, Opesa Okamibi, Mayanya, your second presentation, or Yewiania Faudiano. A round of applause for them, please, ladies and gentlemen. We will take our second presentation, which is on illegal mining in cocoa growing areas. This is to be presented by Dr. Emmanuel Ajiman Jumo, Deputy CEO, Agronomy and Quality Control Cocoa Board, and it is to be chaired by Professor Emmanuel Ahin, Lecturer, Earth Science Department, University of Technology and Applied Sciences, Navrongo. A round of applause for them, please. And gentlemen, you have 20 minutes to do this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to change the moderation slightly by providing some practical experiences that I have had. Personally, I worked in the mineral industry for 16 years before becoming an academician. 2016, I attended a conference in Yokohama, Japan. And during the registration, when I mentioned my name and then the country, the people sitting on the table said, cocoa, gold. That is what globally Ghana is known for. And during my full experience, I was doing an exploration for a company, that is the year 2000. we got to a point where we saw good anomaly of gold in the cocoa farm. The farmer there chased after us with gun. 2020, when I went back to that same place, that cocoa farm that the man tried to protect it were no longer there, and you could see pits for gold mining all over. Recently, 2019, I went to Seshivioso area and Brim to do due diligence work for a company. And then, whilst I was walking through the bush, what the cocoa farmers were asking me is, when is the mining coming? We want to get rid of our cocoa farm because we are making nothing out of that. I am very much eager, and I know you are also eager, to hear from our honorable presenter what he has for us, because there is a big competition between cocoa and our gold industry. My brother, the floor is open for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols observed. The topic I want us to look at this morning is illegal mining, galamsey, in cocoa areas, the position of Ghana Cocoa Board. And my outline, we're going to look at, that's a short introduction, mining in cocoa areas affected by illegal mining and small-scale mining, the impact of mining on cocoa production, Cocoa Board interventions, and what needs to be done the way forward. Mr. Chairman, as we all know, cocoa is the mainstay of Ghana's economy, generating more than $2 billion in foreign exchange annually, and it's a major contributor to government revenue and GDP. Revenue generated from cocoa is used in the provision of various public infrastructure development in Ghana. Apart from the over 2 million farm families engaged in cocoa production, over 200,000 other individuals are engaged in either trade, transportation, or processing of cocoa. Cocoa is a strong pillar in the stabilization of the cedi, unlike the other minerals, which have high capital flight. Cocoa helps in the restoration of the forest in the Middle Belt because of the nature of the cultivation that we do in our cocoa practice. The historical importance of mining in the economic development of Ghana is considerable and well documented, with the country colonial name Gold Coast, reflecting the importance of mining sector. Gold dominates the mining sector of Ghana, and Ghana is Africa's second most important producer of gold after South Africa. The third largest producer of manganese and aluminum, and a significant producer of bauxite and diamonds. The mining sector has one of the most serious disastrous environmental consequences conflicting with the livelihood, especially cocoa farmers, and the survival of residents in the cocoa communities. Much has been written of late about the illegal small-scale mining in Ghana and the negative impact it's having on agriculture, especially cocoa production. The question that may be asked, is Ghana's mining a threat or a complement to the cocoa industry? When we look at the table that is being shown now, Mr. Chairman, you realize that most of these, if you take Western region for instance, most of the farms that we have established over the years have all been affected by galamsey and illegal mining. Western North alone, about over 5,000 hectares of land under cocoa cultivation have been destroyed by illegal mining. When you come to Eastern region and Ashanti region, the situation is the same. And as we speak, more harm is being done in these cocoa communities. The impact of these mining activities on cocoa production is enormous. There's crop loss, reduction in crop yield and income, loss of vegetation, the fertility of the topsoil is destroyed, early dropping of immature pods as a result of the chemicals that they use. You tend to have channels of cocoa dropping and the whole farm being rendered unable to yield anything in the course of the season. Water bodies are being contaminated, hampering cocoa drive for irrigation. And it is very expensive also to drill boreholes in these cocoa communities. We are also, and if we engage in borehole, we are also going to disrupt the destruction of underground rock supporting the soil for cocoa production. There is high risk from polluted water bodies due to the use of mercury and other chemicals. Pits are being dug. Pits dug are dangerous to the safety of human and wildlife in these cocoa communities. Eroding the gains made so far by Cocoa Board and the government in terms of support given to farmers. Lands become practically difficult to use, again for cocoa cultivation. Reducing land use, land size into cocoa production, culminating into low national cocoa outputs. Extension of galamsey into the forest reserves. Mr. Chairman, as I speak here right now, the European community, where 80% of our cocoa, Ghana's cocoa enters the European market, about 80% of our cocoa enters their market. And as we speak, EU is threatening Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire to impose legislative restrictions on cocoa that is coming from Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire on importation of cocoa to their ports, all because of the fact that areas that in the 70s and the 80s, when you do the, what do you call it? When you take the satellite images, they were shown as areas where they were green, indicating that they were forest areas. And places where even we had cocoa. You know, cocoa is grown just like in the forest setup. We have the economic trees that are overshadowing the cocoa, and then we have the plantain and then the cocoyam and everything also as undergrowth. So the structure of cocoa farm is similar to the forest sort of. So in the 70s and the 80s, when you take the satellite image, you could see that areas where we have cocoa, they were all green. But now, because those places have turned into galamsey, the land has been, what do you call it, the cocoa has been removed. What you see is that when you take the satellite images, you see the place showing red. And EU thinks that all those places is because of cocoa that is causing the what do you call it, the land degradation. Meanwhile, it is as a result of the galamsey activities that is the cause of the problem that we have. And as we speak, they are threatening us that they're going to sanction Ghana and they're going to prevent cocoa from entering their port. And when this thing happens, where are we going to sell our cocoa? So loss of economic trees, these are also happening. Trees like Ufuntum, Odum, Nyamidua, and so forth and so on. These are all economic trees. They are being removed and being replaced with these galamsey activities. Seepage of heavy metals and chemicals, which my earlier presenter mentioned about. You can see some of the pictures of the damaged areas that used to be cocoa, covered with cocoa farms, have all now been damaged. And you see the extent of the damage that is going on. The pictures here we have from Samaboy district. We also have one from Asenkrigwa district. which is Western North. Then you can see another picture also from Jaboso District, Western North. And also we have this one, Kede in Eastern Region. These are all damaged as a result of these galamsey activities that we're talking about. Cocoa Rehabilitation Program. Mr. Chairman, the government and Cocoa Board has secured over $2 million to rehabilitate swollen shoe disease virus affected farms in our cocoa communities. Under this rehabilitation, we have recruited service providers. Private people are into this activity. They have been engaged and they are supporting Cocoa Board in order to rehabilitate these farms for farmers. Large number of youth in the rural areas have also been employed. Workload on weak and aged farms have been drastically reduced. Food security is in the scheme that we are ensuring because they plant these temporary shade, the plantain, the cocoa yam, which at the end of the day secure the farmer some income. And as you can see, these are some of the pictures of, as we speak, what is happening in the field, trying to rehabilitate cocoa farms for farmers. Mr. Chairman, the cost of rehabilitation for a hectare of land is 11,892 Ghana cedis. The problem statement or the concern that we have is illegal small-scale mining is destroying cocoa farms in the country. Rehabilitated farms are being destroyed at an alarming rate in the cocoa growing communities. The miners are cheating the cocoa farmers by compensating them for 20 Ghana cedis per tree. This translates into 22,000 Ghana cedis per hectare, which is 8,800 per acre of farm. Mr. Chairman, you can look at some of the interventions, Cocoa Board's intervention. Pruning. When you prune, it's a cultural practice that as soon as you do, light penetration into the cocoa canopy improves. There's aeration that reduces the incidence of diseases that attack the cocoa. All these things, and also we have flower initiations shooting up, which helps the farmer to increase productivity on the farm. And also we have also introduced pollination. Pollination is naturally being done by insects, but we have realized that artificially or through hand pollination, we can increase pods per tree. And as we speak, averagely, you can have one tree giving us 200 pods. It's an average of between 80 pods up to 400 pods. You have that range. And farmers are doing very well with this introduction of this hand pollination. And Mr. Chairman, projected revenue from 1 hectare of cocoa, as we speak right now, is what I have outlined here. With all these interventions from Cocoa Board, cocoa tree has a productive lifespan of 40 years, with an average of 200 pods per year, giving us 220,000 pods per hectare. Given that, every bag of cocoa, we have done this and we have realized that every bag of cocoa is about 1,600 pods, which is produced into 1 bag of cocoa. And that translates into 64 kilograms of a bag of cocoa. And when you work out the calculation, you realize that for every hectare, the farmer, if he's allowed to farm on the land, is going to make 90,750 per hectare of land. So that for that 40 years that the farmer is going to remain on the land, the farmer is going to make 3,630,000 Ghana cedis for the 40 years. The introduction of irrigation also is going to cost a double of this amount to the cocoa farmer. And Mr. Chairman, I have outlined the what do you call it, the positive aspects of this irrigation. For the sake of time, I will just let us look at the systems that we have. We have the drip irrigation that we have already introduced. We started with the pilot one, and now we want to roll it for farmers who have the capacity also to go into irrigation of cocoa, their cocoa farms. Then, as you can see, places where it is difficult to get the national grid, solar is being used to pump water for farmers to have access throughout the year, the 12 months, water on their farms to irrigate their cocoa farms. What needs to be done, Mr. Chairman? Framework or legislation to be developed that focuses on process as an approach towards sustainable land and water management system in cocoa areas where mining activity do occur. Government must develop policies for prohibiting prohibits mining in cocoa farms. Where mining is inevitable on any cocoa farm, the miner should pay compensation according to Cocoa Board's recommended projected revenue. This formula includes the cost of destruction of properties and deprivation of use rights amortized over 40 years. No issuance of license or lease for mining in cocoa farm lands until public forum is organized, which used to be done at the centralized areas in the communities where a lot of the inhabitants can attend for their consent concurrently. No concession area topo sheets should be issued to companies from Accra without public forum in the cocoa communities. Minerals Commission should do land truthing before issuance of license. An amount of 3,630,000 Ghana cedis, being a projected revenue per hectare, should be paid as compensation to the farmer whose farm has been destroyed. In situations where a rehabilitated cocoa farm has been destroyed, an amount of 11,892 Ghana cedis per hectare should be paid to Cocoa Board to recover the investment made. The above sum of money cover compensation with regards to the deprivation of livelihood. Compensation for the destruction of property should also be paid as stipulated in the mining law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think yesterday we overstressed Nananum, and we don't have to repeat that one today. So I'm going to allow only 4 questions to be asked. Nana? 4 and nothing more. So count where you are. If you are more than 4, you go back to your seat.
Okay. I am disturbed by what I've just heard. If our cocoa farms are destroyed, I don't live in a cocoa growing area, but if our cocoa farms are destroyed, I don't know where we are going in this country. Mining destroys the environment. Mining destroys our rivers and so many things. And mining, the minerals can be exhausted, but cocoa farming can never be exhausted. If this is so, what kind of communication is Cocoa Board having with those cocoa farmers who own properties? My second question is, if he's saying they have to compensate cocoa farmers for destroying their cocoa farms, are they not approbating and reprobating instead of standing firm to stop these cocoa farms being destroyed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. My issue is that let's say hallelujah to small-scale mining. Reason, for the sake of mining, there's a time Cocoa Board is taking seriously maintenance of cocoa farms for the cocoa farmer. Because when it comes to pest control, they have to take over the cost themselves. When they are going to farms, they have to walk kilometers. They have to carry loads, heavy loads, but 20 plus loads to their farms. When they are coming, they have to do a 14, carrying load at the same time. roads to the farms, when is Cocoa Board looking at sending cocoa roads to the agricultural farmlands so that the farmer will also have some comfort? People are sent their cocoa farms and built because over the years, the yield to the cocoa farms cannot compensate them enough revenue for them to take over their housing or even buy a bicycle or a motorbike to ply his cocoa because the maintenance culture was very poor. Today, Cocoa Board is being challenged by mining to ensure that they maintain the cocoa farms, now pruning, now doing the artificial pollination. I'm asking Cocoa Board, when are they going to give the farmers the opportunity to have cocoa roads to their farms, cocoa roads and other things to the farmlands, so that at least they can also enjoy something from their farm, from their toil, because farmers are toiling too much. I'm myself a farmer. I'm the man here was I am also constituency parliamentary member, that's the MP for Manzukanta constituency. I have a farm. You won't have labor going to your farm to help you in the maintenance and cultivation of the farm, because when you look at the revenue that the person will get, at the end of the day, he will go to the mine site and do mining and make money. So please, Cocoa Board, it's a challenge for you to put something up there so that you try to help the cocoa farmer to also enjoy life for the lifetime that he's in farming. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll come here.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, may I update the presentation data that just a couple of weeks ago, the World Mining Data has published that Ghana is now the largest gold-producing country in Africa, no longer behind South Africa. Then I am also aware that the Cocoa Board has a flagship program which seeks to mentor the shea industry up north. And most of the data you have presented, I haven't seen anything covering the shea areas, but practically we have a lot of illegal artisanal small-scale mining going on in the north, particularly in the Talensi areas, just around Boli, and then also in the Nadoli districts and Wa East districts in the Upper West region. So what is the package that Cocoa Board has for this flagship program? And then stepping on the shoulders of Nana, who was the first to ask a question, may I ask you, is there a possible synergy between cocoa production
Mr.
and
Chairman,
artisanal small-scale
a point
mining?
of interaction. In fact, I want to associate myself. I'm preparing for a second. I want to associate myself with my son about the shea nut or the shea tree. That has not been mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ligura.
Let me take my first question from there. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just may conclude with my question.
Oh, I thought you are done.
No, it was an interruption. Sorry. So, what's the synergy? Is there a possible synergy between cocoa production, cocoa farming, and then artisanal small-scale mining? I have been a member of the Australian Africa Research Forum, which is usually a prelude to the Africa Down Under Conference, and there's advanced work on creating a synergy between agriculture and mining so that the country can actually benefit optimally from both industries. Is Cocoa Board considering developing such a synergy with Minerals Commission or government? Thank you very much.
All right, the fourth.
I'm poor, Robert, a small-scale miner. Mr. Chairman, I want to find out from Cocoa Board, if a cocoa farmer gives you 1 acre of his land and asks Cocoa Board to compensate him, will you be able to do that? And another one I want to find out, the problem of small-scale miners engaging in cocoa farming is because there is no any availability of land for small-scale mining in this country. Most of the areas that the Minerals Commission has gazetted for small-scale mining is not there for us to do mining. And sometimes you get to a cocoa farmer, and the cocoa farmer will say, well, I have 1 acre of land, so I want you to give me this sum of amount, and then you come and do. The person wants to do gold mining, you're forced to do illegal mining. What I'm trying to say is that this forum is something that is going to help everybody for us to do proper mining and best practice of mining. And I believe that Minerals Commission with the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources to make sure that they have made land available for the small-scale mining in this country, for them to get that land. And when that place is gazetted for them, the small-scale miners will go there and leave the Shannon trees where they'll be talking about, leave where the cocoa farms are, and they will not be interfering into that. Why am I saying that? When you use Upper East as an example, the gazetted area was a Tongo mining area, which is going to be taken over by the multipurpose dam. The Talisi area, another one, the Banim blockout area, is also going to be taken by a large-scale construction. Please, now, there is not any single land gazetted in the north, especially Upper East. Where will the small-scale miners go to do mining? And they won't do illegal mining. That is the problem. And I believe that it is time for the Minerals Commission and the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, because the large-scale companies that are coming to take over the Bani land are in negotiation with the small-scale mining. It is given over, but they have deblocked it. It is given over to them. Where are they going to mine, and they will not do illegal mining, since that there is no land for them to go and mine? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I said I was going to accept only 4 questions, yes, but I still have 4 people standing. But I did say so on behalf of Nananum, so I have to go back to them. Nananum, should I allow them to ask their questions? Okay. So let's do it this way. He's going to respond to the first 4 questions, after which I will come back to you. So nobody joins the queue any longer. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with the question Nana put to Cocoa Board with regards to the communication that Cocoa Board has with farmers, and why is it that we have not been able to talk to farmers not to release their lands for these galamsey activities. What I would say is that over the years, Cocoa Board has tried its best. The point is that the land itself does not belong to Ghana Cocoa Board, but we invest in the cocoa farm for the farmer to make profit out of it. So what you can do is to advise the farmer and let him understand or really see the pros and cons when he releases the land to a galamsey, what is going to be in future, what is going to happen to him, and then the generation unborn. So we have over the years been educating farmers of the importance, the fact that once these galamsey or this mining activity goes on, you have lost the land forever. But you can stay on the land with your cocoa farm for 40 years. Even where maintenance is done properly, one can go beyond the 40 years that we're talking about. And the 200 pots that I mentioned, these are average. With all these interventions that we are giving to the farmer can even go beyond the 200 pots per tree. So we have been educating farmers. And Cocoa Board, that is the full length that so far we have gone. And now, of late, we have also engaged. I remember 2015, 2016, we had serious engagement. We started serious engagement with the Minerals Commission. And we have not really reached any agreement, but it's not something that we have not done anything about it. We have written a series of letters trying to engage the Mineral Commission on how best we can solve this problem that we have as a nation. When it comes to pest control, the gentleman asked, why is Cocoa Board not taking care of pest, the bad, what do you call it? The pest control. But I can assure you that when it comes to pest control, Cocoa Board is bearing the full cost. The fungicides, the insecticide that we buy for the control of black pod, and then the control of insect pests attacking cocoa, it is fully borne by Cocoa Board. Farmers do not pay for provision of insecticide and fungicides. It is fertilizers, that the granular fertilizer that is issued to farmers is where we have had an agreement with them. It's a subsidy. Government pays 50%, and the farmer is supposed to pay 50%. And we have made the arrangement such that it doesn't take just one season. It takes about 3 seasons for the farmer to complete the payment of the, of the fertilizer cost that's to him. Then when it comes to share, Mr. Chairman, let me say that my presentation was silent on share. A lot of activities, there are a lot of programs that we have on share. Recently, we had approval to create a new division, which is going to be one division, which is going to look at coffee and share. And we, at the last board meeting that we had, we got approval to do that. And even in our budget, in our national budget, it is captured in the budget for monies that have been allocated for us to look at share and coffee alone as a division which is going to stand on its own. So we are making progress also to make sure that we strengthen the share production in this country. So Nana, I would say that it's something that we have started, and if you, Bupera will bear with me, we are even engaging him to establish plantations within the Gunja land, because we have a substation located at Bole in the, what do you call it, in the Bole district or the Savannah region. Then also, when it comes to Galamsey activities in the Amansie, I would say that, yes, as I indicated, most of these things that we are doing, you see, Cocoa Board, we interface. We have a division, Cocoa Health and Extension Division. They interface with our farmers. And once in a while, the Cocoa Research Institute also come into contact with farmers. We have done series of education, and with all the interventions that we are giving to farmers, we try as much as we can to let them understand why they should continue with the cocoa farming. But there are places that the farmers themselves do not seem to have control over some of these decisions. About 3 weeks ago, I was in my office, and a farmer he's about 72 years. He came all the way from just Eastern Region, Cocoa, and he came to report to us that at the time he came, the cocoa community in that catchment area, there were Chinese and then some people on the land with their machines ready to start prospecting for gold. And so he rushed to Cocoa Board, whether there could be, Cocoa Board has any means of stopping them. But the point is, Mr. Chairman, as I have earlier said, we only educate the farmers, and sometimes with the chiefs in the communities, that if you don't allow these things to go on, the one who is coming from outside can never enter your land. But sometimes they also agree with the galamseyers or the illegal miners, and then the work continues. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I've just been signaled by the MC that this program is time-bound. So we cannot go beyond the additional 4 that I said. We can take 2 more. I think now your hand was up, and then Madam Ekiadonko, I will just give you, forgive me. Yeah, that is why I'm asking for your forgiveness. No, listen, I was disappointed myself yesterday when I stood up and was not allowed to ask my question. Just accept my apology. Yeah. Yeah.
Yo, that's it. I know pay me chair when you know, me chair or my gun and you know. A queer fool, you know, my way to go to you know, me chair. Maybe I'm a chow, Nanado, my bonabasso. Said you what to me, I got him say, see a million a year, no. My bonabasso. No, mom, the American say. You might why yes, I said, you know, I just was I just was a program Nibium. If you say, why am I to go to no? And near queer for what can I say? Will be anywhere what table for. Why am I a good will be anywhere table for and will be that Nefidia to her, so would TM. Will be a TV show or a photo. There were what tears I know. There be a mocassa, just a couple of. May I make a couple of Untigrabo Mamma Class and Macassa? Now, so some more. I had there, I'm a carrier, honey. So what? And did you make a chair when Media for mo na me hia mo. Media for mo na mo ye adwuma nkasa. Obi ko ka brafum na hebedwa mu a wa huru ka na Ghana fo nyina ni mu guase. Atoso mienu. Adenti na Ghana ye mu hia ni ya ne mu hia ye mu dia he na ye burani. Burani na wote ha ne ye wo ne ha o. Ghana na wo no. Enti wano nche so ye burani ba ko peti mu nti ba ka brafo. E wasa ba ka ya kasa. Ano nti na ma ye nko ye nim no. Wo papa ya wo ye kokko board penni. Enka me a me de oba na metimi de kuadwuma ate party school da me nansi bi mu da. One more way, will be person when you are sending me a walker, or cabra for I want to make canty one cassa. I don't know where, sir. Nanado, why are dear? So what can you say? God, I'm saying, no, yeah, no, but another, my brother Basso Fires was say. When Chamanka said, I'm saying, what Cham never was saying any year. As my Wakai, a Fidiano at the Abano, one month near Timia, a Fidiano, and to that I know I know the bay, and that's what you know, if it's as my kind of one. Sir, Monkaya Casa, my what? Monkaya Casa, my. So I can make Casa first, and I want Mamma Paya. So now he should program when or catch me. Come a catch and some more beer and cabra for her. A brand me, some little man, and my Maquami and cabra for. And to the American, American Cassibia, Nanado and my brother Basso, and penny for our kind of Mombano. Now been with the wedding. Mombano, I will come and share ye, will come and share ye, Ghana, me come home. And to make me chair, Madame Wasi.
Yeah, it has become so exciting. So I'm going to allow Nana to speak. You fought for your position, so I'll allow you. Only two, forgive me. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, you have to give him the microphone. It's just two. Then Nana will take it, and the first person will take it. All other questions, I think, can be forwarded to the ministry, and if it becomes necessary for them to interact with you, I think they can do so.
Intervention and maybe an addition to the presentation by Cocoa Board. For me, I have always said that Cocoa Board, if we are not very careful, will not be in existence within a very short time. The reason why I'm saying that is that it looks as if the concentration of the Cocoa Board is mainly maybe to support the Kuyadonko in the areas where they think their intervention is necessary. But if you look at the presentation made, my problem is that Cocoa Board is in trouble not necessarily because of Galamsey only, but because of other competing crops that are now the mainstay of Ghana's economy. I mean, I am a chief. I go to my hometown every day. My area is in Ashanti region. My area doesn't have a problem with Galamsey. But cocoa production has been reducing every year. Even my own cocoa farm. The other day, when I asked the caretakers, I was told that the reduction of the cocoa farm, what I've been getting from it, has been reducing considerably because of the fact that they have been converting the cocoa farms into some other use, like cassava, like plantain, like and maize. Because this gives them more economic, than cocoa. See? So you might be a little bit more flexible. Otherwise, you are an endangered species. I've always said that CMB, if they are not very careful, CMB will be an endangered institution. Within the next 4 or 5 years, there will be no CMB. So please be a little bit more proactive and look at areas where you think you can help your farmers, you know. The cocoa farmers are getting nothing, completely nothing. And to take care of a cocoa farm is a very laborious thing. And you get your remuneration only once a year. Whereas, what do you call cassava farmers can get remuneration from the cassava farm 2 or 3 times a year. So you must be a little bit more proactive and then stop looking too much inward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think with your perseverance, I will allow those standing still to make their presentation. Ask your questions here.
Thank you. My name is Kwame Jantua. I'm a cocoa farmer. My farm is in Bayirebong number 5 and in Kawie. I heard what the man from the cocoa marketing board, if that is what they are called, cocoa board said. Please, I think the challenge is enforcement. So on my farm right now, if I'm being invaded by small-scale miners, galamsey, what do I do? How can I come to Accra to report you there and then? If you tell us that, oh, we don't have the power to do certain things, how are you working with the Minerals Commission to make sure that you can have a standing, if I can call it, army to immediately head for those areas that the galamseyers are going there? We have technology today. We have drones. Put a task force together. Because if I'm on my farm and I'm being invaded, how do I protect myself? How do I protect my trees? So I do not really take it that when you said we don't have that power. Have the power. Go to Parliament. Let them pass the laws. So that if for nothing at all, we farmers can be protected. Madam Kuyadonko,
I've gotten what you said, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Jantua.
Before the next question, I think the presenter wants to say something.
We have engaged the Mineral Commission, as I said earlier on. But the point is that permits for mining activity is done here in Accra. And so the one who has been granted a permit to go and do the mining or prospecting takes the approval from Accra, he goes to the cocoa farm. Obedru cocoa farm, Obedru, the land where he's supposed to do the prospecting or to start the mining activity, then he realizes that we have cocoa farms there. Okay? In many times, when we get a report, we engage Minerals Commission. What you're saying is true, but what I want to tell you is that there's some kind of engagement, except that we have not reached any consensus. And we're still going on with Mineral Commission, all because we expect that before issuing permits, you have to find out whether the land where the mining is going to take place, what do we have there? These things have to be done. These sort of, yes, one has to do his background homework before issuing a permit. But you issue permit without knowing what is there. Then the gentleman gets there, or the one who has been given permit, he gets there, and there are farms, cocoa farms, in all the place. But because he has the permit, he also goes ahead to start with the mining activity. And then cocoa farmers will have to lose their land. So what we are saying is that, yes, we believe that because we have had this engagement for a number of years, we believe that it should go a bit higher. And like this forum where we have met, let us look at ways that we can stop some of these things going on for the benefits of the whole country and for our cocoa farmers.
All right, the next person.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, first of all, you have to look at maybe the theme of the program today, and I believe sustainable small-scale mining for national development, which means the target is not maybe about disbanding or stopping the small-scale mining, but how to make the illegal small-scale miners also be legal and do the best practice in the country. It's not to stop mining, because small-scale mining is like subsistence farming or subsistence fishing. The problem is, when you come to Western region, as a result of soil leaching and the gold mineral in the soil, cocoa is not doing well in Western region. I know for sure cocoa farms that we did, especially in Wasafiasi area, which after about 5 or 6 years, the cocoa trees died. When if you look at any other place, we look at the relative advantage, the relative economic advantage of that economic activity happening in that area. If you come to Wasa Ekropong or those at Prisia Huni Valley and other areas, you plant a cocoa farm, and for over 10, 20, or 40 years that you are talking about, you may not even see about 5,000 within the whole period in the particular bulk. So even I, as I stand here, at a certain point I have to cut my cocoa tree and plant a rubber. So it is not only the mining which is competing with cocoa. Other crops are also competing with cocoa. When you come to Wasa area, people are cutting cocoa to plant rubber and palm plantations. So the cocoa board have to do better things to improve the lot of the farmers. When you talk about destruction of cocoa, it is not only illegal small-scale miners. It is not small-scale miners. Come to Takwa, look at the large-scale mining companies over there. When they got the concession, a whole township have been removed, resettled, with the cocoa, where cocoa farmers are. They have moved from that area to come and stay in Tapa and given a compensation. So it is not the illegal small-scale miners or small-scale miners that destroy the cocoa trees. The large-scale legal miners are taking over most of these cocoa farms. So the thing is, the mining and the mineral law is clear. When you go for a mining license or the mining lease, you are asked to go to the cocoa farmer to negotiate for compensation on the surface right. Now, no galamsey or even the large-scale miners are able to go to rubber plantation for compensation, because no rubber plantation, because of revenue per acre, no rubber farmer will give his farm to you for do mining. But go to the cocoa farmer, he will readily give it to you. They will even call them, come. And get it. He gets about 200,000, go and buy treasury bill, buy his taxi, and at the end of the day, he feels that that is what he has done for the whole period of his life. So, for us to stop mining in cocoa areas, the law does not, in fact, it is against the law. The mining law does not even permit that. The mining law is only against mining in the forest reserve, and that's why even these days, at a certain point in time, they were giving that license. The mining law allows the permit to be given to any other place. So the cocoa farmers, the cocoa CMB cocoa board should be proactive, help the farmers to increase their revenue per acre, so that the farmers will also be more, so that they will not sell the cocoa.
Thank you very much. You've made your point. The last person, please be brief.
I would like to ask permission to take off my mask and this cap and perhaps these glasses, because I want to be seen. Coming next September 5, I'll be 89 years of age. I'm a cocoa farmer, and I'm one of the boys who used to be called Chicago boys, who were groomed by the late Professor Buzia. My name is Odro Kwati. What is happening to Ghana? What is happening to the cocoa sector? What is happening to the miner is that we do not think outside the box. I have been trying to chase Dr. Jumo for more than a year now. When the government came out with a proposal to get Cocoa Board and Forestry to handle cocoa program, They invited private sector to make a contribution. Before I could find out, only the known cocoa buyers are the big names that have been accepted in that particular program. I wrote a proposal. A copy of it I sent to the key people, including Dr. Emmanuel Guimot, who understand it from Mampong. I'm from a scientific USA. Now, let me tell you, I don't want to speak too much, but there's a lot of things that you've said today that if we want to think outside the box and do things properly, we can demonstrate and I can give figures that will tell everybody who wants to give a land to any Galamsey not to do that. Because I can produce 1.5 tons of vegetables for every 60 meters of land by the way we manage the land. We do things the wrong way. You're talking about the European governments ganging against it. It didn't start yesterday. It started way back in the 60s. And we fought it. They said they were going to introduce, what is it? Cocoa, which is not organic. Genetically, but not modified.
Yeah.
And I happen to have been in New York at the United Nations. And I stood up and I told them, you people are cheating, you are telling nonsense to your own people. No American will get up and put money to purchase cocoa which is not organically produced. We can produce it. And what you are fighting today started a long time ago. Perhaps you were in class 1. You have people in this country, young people, younger than I am. Since 2010, I have given workshops to more than 15,000 farmers, telling them that we can produce better, cocoa, and not only do organic production, but add value to it locally in this country before we enter into the outside market. Gentlemen, and Nana Jinapo, I have been trying to come and see you. I will come and see you before you go. We have a program to save not only cocoa and cashew, but shea also. We have a program that we can prove to you that we can produce tons and tons, shea plantation. In less than 6 years, that it will be productive. I'm going to be in Kintampo. I have been given 25,000 acres of land, and we're going to prove where people say it cannot be proven. We're going to demonstrate it in Kintampo, and you are included, Sahara. I don't want to talk too much. I just wanted to say this thing. I'd like to get a copy of the report that you submitted here. And I can take that report and tear it into shreds, because we can change all that one if we mean business. We can train the youth. We can provide more jobs. We can provide more jobs. And I mean it. I don't want to talk too much. There are people here who know me, and I just want to take up my list.
Okay. Yes. Nana, I think you hold your fire there. Thank you very much. I thought I'm done. Please, let's end it somewhere.
Last one. Mr. Chairman, the essence of this conference is that we are looking at sustainable small-scale mining. Now, the root cause of all this problem that we are having now is the fact that we've taken Nananum out of it, whether it's farming or small-scale mining. When you leave out Nananum, nothing is going to work. We proposed as far back as 2017 that when it comes to small-scale mine, that is the Solomon Investment Group, we said that when it comes to small-scale mine, we want 30% to go to Nananum or the community, 30% to those who will be providing the equipment, 30% for management, and 10% for government and taxes. Now, if Nananum are at the center of it, my brother Jantua was mentioning about the fact that we should seek a higher power from up. But Nananum are with the locals. They are both with the farmers and the small-scale miners, and they can settle everything down there without anybody needing to come to Accra to settle that. And so let's look at that fundamental clause or article within our Constitution, Article 2576, that the minerals power has been vested in the government and is being presided over by the president. When we have a second look at this issue and we take out and handle and bring a balance of this, I'm sure all these problems that we are mentioning will be dealt with, and going forward, we can actually have sustainable mining. There are other questions that I'm leaving out from your presentation. But to be honest with you, if this old man has been chasing you for more than a year, this is what has been going on in Ghana. And whenever we have such conferences, then we come out to say different things altogether. Let's avail ourselves for our own people. We have a lot of people with brains, with ideas that they will be chasing government officials and they will never get it. And whenever we come over here, we speak as if we don't have solutions that can come from Ghana. This is the main problem that we have.
Thank you very much. Do you have any response to the questions, or? Yes. Do you have something to say? Okay. Praise, we are done. Sorry. I can't accept it. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know him.
Mr.
I know
Chairman,
that I don't know him, but we are working with
Mr. Chairman, I'm from the Minerals Commission. Cocoa Board has put out a lot of lies here. I'm sorry to use that strong language. Two things. There's no way that a mining license or permit will be issued in today's Ghana without the landowner knowing. It is a different matter if you have not been served. So it is wrong for him to sit here and say that we sit in Accra and then we issue permit. We don't do that. The laws of Ghana don't allow that. The first thing we do, in any case, small scales are processed in the locality, the district office. When you get the application, they serve it on the landowner, the chief. I'm saying it is different when we realize that the DCs were not serving it. The law changed in 2006. The district officer will serve the landowner personally. So it is wrong for him to sit here and say we issue things from Accra. It is wrong. And I don't expect that from a government official. That's the first thing. And then two, and most importantly, as we sit here, I just have an application on my desk brought by the Small Scale Association. When we look at it, you're talking about sister concessions. 90% is cocoa. We have stopped it. But this is what we must do as Ghanaians. We have stopped it now. I don't have the power to police that several thousands of acres cocoa farm. Trust me, tomorrow morning is a cocoa farmer who will be selling that land. Yes. It's a cocoa farmer. That is the hard truth. It's the cocoa farmers who are selling the land themselves. I was so happy when the chief from Agona also said that in this place there's no farming, but they prefer to do cassava and other things. That is what is happening. The complaints we are receiving now is a farmer who is selling the land. He takes his 20,000. You know what it means to give a farmer even $5,000 in a village? He will take that money and go to sleep. They are the ones who are selling. So we should be asking ourselves, what incentive should we be providing to cocoa farmers to stop them from selling their land? That's what we should be doing. That's what we should be doing.
Okay, Mr. Isi, thank you very much. I didn't know that you were coming in with a rejoinder. Please. Oh, Charlie, you are hot. There should be a forum on your destiny.
spent a lot on this issue, and I know you want to move on to another issue. But let me assure you that we are going to invite the CEO of Minerals Commission to come and address this issue of involving Nanano in the grant of permits. You should come with documents to prove that they issue permits by consulting chiefs. Thank you very much.
These are the problems.
We invite him to Kumasi National House of Chiefs meeting.
You see,
right.
Mr. Chairman, so take note of this.
You want to?
You see where the
yeah.
So there's.
So let's. Okay. I think.
So let me.
You want to
Mr.
respond
Chairman,
to?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy what we have heard from President of National House of Chiefs, the position that he's asking the Minerals Commission. So I am saying exactly what we are experiencing in the field. So I'm happy of his last statement that he made. I won't comment further. I will leave it as it is. But coming to especially my father, Mr. Udrokwatin. Mr. Udrokwatin, I have engaged him on a couple of times. It's not that he's never had he's never met me. We have met, except that we have not reached any conclusion. So, Drew, my door is still open, please. So please, from here, even if we want to, you can see me, and then we'll continue from the last discussion that we had. So please, it's not that I am not listening to. That is not our approach in Cocoa Board at all. So I want to set the record straight. So please, Mr. Kwatin, I will see you after this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I believe many of you still have questions that you want to ask. But because we don't have the luxury of time, we want to end here. But any other question that you have, it will be good if you can communicate to the ministry that brought us here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Cocoa Board, to Dr. Emmanuel Ajiman Jumo, and of course, Professor Emmanuel Ahen. Now, let's welcome the advice on mining to the sector minister who will give us a summary of the meeting so far. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Ben Aye.
The Honorable Minister, Nananum, distinguished ministers, members of parliament, and distinguished guests. My job is very simple, to present a summary of day one of a national consultative dialogue on small-scale mining with a theme of sustainable small-scale mining for national development. The day started with the opening session, a welcome address by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, the Honorable Samuel Abdullah Jinapo. He welcomed all and highlighted the national, not government, but non-partisan nature of the consultative dialogue, with participants and indeed resource persons, including current and former ministers, members of parliament from across the political divide, traditional authorities, CSOs, operators, and other stakeholders. Also indicated that this was to be replicated in all the mining regions across the country. He indicated that the 2017 initiatives by government to manage the subsector achieved some successes, notably training of miners, laws that were passed, and community mining was introduced. He also indicated that the current initiative is therefore to further improve the outcomes through, among others, mobilization of finance, securing community support, dealing with sponsors of illegal mining, dealing with the foreigners still engaged in it, provision of livelihoods for Ghanaians who got disadvantaged through the process, consideration of whether medium-scale mining should be introduced, and the establishment of an enforcement mechanism which would be impartial and would be done dispassionately. The president of the Chamber of Mines, in his remarks, said the Chamber finds it apt that His Excellency the President was lending his full support to halting illegal mining while championing socially responsible small-scale mining along with large-scale mining. All mining, he said, needs to be mainstreamed. That is, while operating legally, it should also contribute to the economy and nation building generally, including appropriate stewardship over the physical environment in a safe and healthy working environment. This is the only way that Ghana can become the beacon of sustainable mining in Africa that it aspires to become. On behalf of the Small Scale Miners Association, the Treasurer said that the association supports government's fight against illegal mining. The small-scale mining sector, he said, had evolved from the rural rudimentary activity it was in 1989 when it was regularized to become an entrepreneurial business activity, with contribution to gold production having increased from 2% then to 35% in 2020. Indeed, he said, it has contributed some 160 million cedis to government revenue since the withholding tax was introduced. However, they agreed that the negative impacts, notably the environmental impacts, were unacceptable, and the association supported in various ways, notably the recent efforts through its task force to destroy some 8,000 Shamfan dredges on water bodies, which cost the association some 900,000 cedis. The children's representative, on her part, through a poem, had this message: let's respect the environment and stop illegal mining. In his keynote address, His Excellency the President emphasized the need for our collective determination to find a solution to the problem of galamsey. He indicated that mining creates jobs, livelihoods, etc., but should not do so at the expense of our environment, which needs our nurturing to ensure that we survive. There is nothing wrong with mining, and it generates revenue and other benefits for the country, for the community, for families, and for individuals. But it's not acceptable when it leaves behind unreclaimed lands, polluted and poisoned water bodies. He indicated that his call for dialogue is not because he's unaware of the direction to go, but more to build a national consensus, non-partisan, non-parochial, across all stakeholders as to how to fight galamsey and protect our land, which our ancestors left for us and which we have to leave for our children. The issue of galamsey should not be for partisan debates. National consensus is what he required, he emphasized. He therefore gave assurance that the laws will be applied irrespective of political or other standing of a person involved, and charged that small-scale mining should be responsible, it should protect our environment, and contribute its quota to national development. He therefore asked all of us to ensure that deliberations were frank, open, and covered all aspects of the subsector. Subsequent to the opening session, there were 7 plenary sessions. The first was a roundtable discussion on experiences, challenges, successes, and future outlook for the small-scale mining sector in Ghana. Firstly, issues were identified as to the causes of the persistence of illegal mining, and these were inappropriate licensing system, which was not decentralized enough and was aloof from the people who needed to license. Secondly, poor and inadequate implementation and enforcement of requirements. Also, inadequate resourcing and capacitating of the institutions that regulate. There was also interference by very influential people who do not allow the law to be applied. There was also lack of formalization of small-scale mining. That is not just legalization, but a system which will ensure that illegal mining became unattractive, while formal responsible mining became attractive. And finally, the lack of mineable, viable lands for small-scale mining to take place in the context of funds not being available to do what is necessary to identify such lands. Then interventions were proposed to manage these challenges. Firstly, resourcing and providing support for the small-scale miners themselves. Then training and certification of extension officers to render services to small-scale miners. Also, developing a framework, including financial institutions, to raise funds for geological investigation, since government funding of geological investigation alone is not sustainable. The need for collaboration under the ministry between the Minerals Commission and the Geological Survey Authority to identify and demarcate suitable areas for small-scale mining. Also, the need for coexistence between large mining companies and the small-scale mining entities. A broad need for sensitization of all stakeholders to understand their roles. The continued efforts of the Small-Scale Miners Association also in addressing illegal mining, including sensitization and then the work of their task force in fighting illegal mining. It was noted that funding and sometimes technical support needs to be secured for a number of these initiatives to proceed further. Also, it was noted that there needed to be the naming and shaming of those who engage in illegal mining, irrespective of who they are. Good governance is critical, and enforcement of the laws against illegal mining must be done to the letter. Also, government should support small-scale mining to operate as sustainable business entities. An example was made of how community mining schemes can be done, but also the private sector welcome to come in through public-private partnerships. It was noted also that traditional authorities who have the surface rights are not involved enough in the licensing regime, and consideration should be given to enhancing this. And finally, among the interventions proposed, the fight against illegal mining should be made part of the key performance indices of the district and municipal chief executives. There was a concern expressed, but which was not completely dealt with, that of foreigners in the small-scale mining sector. In the second plenary, which was presentations on mining and preservation of the environment, the EPA made a presentation which highlighted the need for management of small-scale mining to be all-inclusive. Also, enforcement of laws which should be in collaboration with local people. They did emphasize also the need of collaboration between regulatory and law enforcement agencies. A contributor proposed that enforcement should take cognizance of the reasons why people engage in illegal mining, notably non-availability of mineable lands, because all have been licensed to large-scale companies, especially prospecting licenses. Also, the difficulty in acquiring licenses and the cost of acquiring such licenses. It was therefore suggested that lands which have been under prospecting licenses for some time should be taken back for possible allocation to small-scale mining. Again, traditional authorities were concerned about their not being given any substantive role in licensing, which would be the basis for their being expected to be more actively involved in monitoring operations and enforcement for compliance. The chairperson at this time remarked that taking note that minerals are finite, reclamation and rehabilitation should be strictly enforced, always ensuring an ecological balance. Again, while science and technology should be the basis, tact and dialogue should always be used with stakeholders in addressing the challenges of the sector. The Minister, Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources at this time gave assurance that the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources will seek audience with NANANUM to address some of the concerns raised. And also, the licensing regime will be looked at. The Forestry Commission intervention by the CEO focused on mining in production forest reserves, highlighting the fact that about 6,000 hectares of land was under prospecting licenses, while 2,000 hectares had been affected by illegal mining. Upon a statement that companies with prospecting licenses were sometimes engaged in mining under the guise of prospecting through bulk sampling, and because of the degradation prospecting license holders cause, they would be promoting biodiversity offsets. The Forestry Commission was, however, advised to, instead of the offset arrangements, since they were together with the Minerals Commission under the ministry, get to engage to resolve any irregularities. Other challenges highlighted by the Forestry Commission included limited logistics, interference in their work, fines not being deterrent enough, illegal miners being shielded by community members because of livelihood support from such miners, difficulty in moving seized equipment out of the forest reserves. However, the current interventions they were pursuing included arrest and prosecution of offenders, intensification of community education or sensitization programs, rapid response teams, joint military police patrols, deployment of regional and district monitoring teams, and issuance of prospecting licenses have been stopped in forest reserves. By way of a way forward, it was proposed that Forestry Commission should dialogue with stakeholders on mining-related issues. It should develop and implement alternative livelihood schemes in mining communities. It should increase its staff strength in the affected areas. It should provide logistics for its staff. It should improve collaboration with mining-related institutions to combat the menace, and it should ensure compliance with mining guidelines by legally permitted companies. In addition to RegSec and DASEC, traditional authorities should be involved in managing illegal mining activities. The third plenary, which dealt with sanctions for illegal small-scale mining under the Minerals and Mining Act, was presented by Mr. Joseph Iroko of the Minerals Commission. He indicated that the sanctions currently applicable, as per the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act 2019 Act 995, and were said to be very punitive and therefore expected to be deterrent enough. He compared to the 5 to 20 years imprisonment and fines of 2,000 to 300,000 penalty units under Act 900 of 2015, the 2019 Act 995 imposed a range of 15 to 25 years imprisonment and fines of 20,000 to 350,000 penalty units for undertaking various illegal mining activities as spelled out in the law. After lunch, we had a discussion on international best practices in small-scale mining led by Professor Richard Amankwa. He indicated that the type of deposit dictates the type of mining method to be employed to achieve full resource optimization. He advised that the use of metal detectors is not the best way to explore for gold, since they detect grade ranges which were not viable, as well as other metals too. Rather, the process involving the conventional use of fire assay of samples collected would give better results and would therefore reduce waste and degradation. The Small Scale Miners Association, talking about local best practices, indicated the mining regulations and laws spell out what mining and processing methods can be used. And Mr. Martin Yesi of the Minerals Commission talked about mine support services. He indicated that provision for mine support services to small-scale miners is, by law, limited to Ghanaian entities. They have to be licensed with the Minerals Commission to render the various services across the mining value chain to legal operators. The Commission was planning that all mining equipment for both large and small-scale operations are to be registered by the Minerals Commission and tracked as a monitoring tool. He encouraged Ghanaian entities to invest in this sector. Finally, by way of talking about fiscal regimes, the GRA advised that of all the items of a fiscal regime, it was mainly the payment of a 3% withholding tax through the exporters, which was applicable to the small-scale mining sector. Concerns about the need to fashion a more suitable regime for the subsector were therefore to be conveyed to the management of the GRA, and proceedings came to a close at 6 p.m. yesterday. By way of a takeaway, let me just highlight that yesterday, Yuma did tell us that the 2nd of June marks the date when small-scale mining was regularized, when we passed laws to allow legal undertaking of small-scale mining of gold. And they intend to use that day to mark sustainable small-scale mining. So by way of takeaway, I want you to start thinking about it. What will be your takeaway at the end of this forum? How will you and what will you commit to ensure that we go away doing responsible and sustainable small-scale mining and say no more illegal small-scale mining? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benayi. And I must say, ladies and gentlemen, that on behalf of the Planning Committee, we thank you for the expertise, the spirit of patriotism, and the passion that you bring to the conversations. We have more, and there's a major task coming up, which is the breakout session. We're going to be in 3 groups, and I'm going to take my time to explain the groups. And for most of us, we have to identify which of the groups that we want to be part of. So the first group will be in meeting room 2. That's a much smaller group. It will take a maximum of about 50 people. And the topic is lessons learned in the past. It will be facilitated by Mrs. Ahana Owusu-Kranting, Wasa Association of Communities Affected by Mining. So room 2 is right behind you. The ushers will help. If that's the topic that you want to be part of, just remember that it takes a maximum of 50. And you can find details of this. We're projecting them on the screen. The second group, the topic is policies and interventions required in the fight against illegal mining. And that will be facilitated by Professor Frank Nyame, lecturer at University of Ghana. The committee hall is right behind you again. The ushers will help with the direction. This is a much bigger room, and so if you're interested, there's no limitation to the number. Group 3 is on measures required to engender broad-based support to ensure effective implementation of the fight against illegal mining. The facilitator is Georgette Sechiado, President, Women in Mining Ghana. Committee hall is, I think committee hall is rather behind you. Committee hall 2 is behind the stage. Again, we'll have the ushers help you out, identify, and you can be part of this. What we entreat is that representatives of the agencies, please ensure that you are represented on each of the groups. So you are in the 3 groups, representatives of the various agencies here. CSOs, you can identify which of the groups that you are interested in participating, and other individuals as well, kindly identify the topic of interest and join. We will have 45 minutes for this group interaction. But first, we have a 15-minute cocoa break. And this is how it's going to go like. Chiefs, Council of State members here, the ministers and MPs present. Your cocoa break is behind the stage. If you're here yesterday where you had lunch is where you have the cocoa break. We'll have the ushers help. And for the rest of us, where we had lunch yesterday, if you were here, is where we're having our 15 minutes cocoa break. Is behind you. You take the stairs. It will take you to the first floor, and we can have our cocoa break. Please, it is 15 minutes for the cocoa break, 45 minutes right after you're done for the group discussion. Thank you very much. We can now make our way to the various places for the break.